Join me, and together we can rule the electrons.
Welcome to the shop. Well, to my shop. Let me close the door. I've cleaned up some stuff, I've sorted out stuff, but everything looks like a mess. I need to charge stuff. So normally I do it the Casey Neistat way, just have battery ready in the charger. This is what I have to set up here again. There's a lot of stuff on my table usually, and I was able to clean up that area over there that you can't see. Of course, I'm talking about stuff that's off camera. This part is usually where all my tools are just laid out, and I have to dig in a mountain full of tools. There's always some packing material that you can find and usually use to cable tie everything. Sometimes you feel better when you at least recycle something. Looks clean enough, I think. I tried to turn on the light, but there's no battery inside. Because I was charging it, well, I thought I was charging it, but actually the charger was only showing the green light because the battery was plugged in, but the charger wasn't. I mean, that's where you know, okay, it was a cheap product because they couldn't afford a diode to prevent that. I should have known that something is wrong when I put in the battery and it shows the green light for charging. The two chargers that I want to have in reach are for the camera that I'm recording with and for the lights that I'm using. This is an LED light that I'm using. It's basically the cheapest thing you can get on Amazon. It comes with the warm white and the cold white filter. There's a little magnet solution up here, and I already had to glue in the magnet again. But I paid 40 or 50 euros for a set of two with the mount and the stand. So it's pretty cheap if you want to start with YouTube stuff. You don't need a DSLR to film stuff. Just grab your cell phone. But I have a camera, so I'm using that, of course. This is a proto board, but I've spray painted it purple. The reason I have this is had this idea of an activity tracker. The idea comes from Simone Giertz. I thought she made a wonderful activity tracker where you have like big switches for every month, and I'm more of a PCB guy. I started layouting stuff in Eagle, then I noticed, okay, it would be way too big for Eagle, so I switched to KiCad. I really like the purple and the red together. So, if you compare this, I really like the purple more. So, another thing I want to do today is glue this thing up. There are 5 LEDs in here, and I think they are in parallel. Seems like it. Yup. There are also 2 resistors in here. I think that's just copper wire that I've soldered around the glass. This is a 3D printed socket. This as well. It's joined by screws. I, at one point, ripped that off, and I have to glue this. Another thing that I did on Friday was, they now have their own place. I still have to fix up the clock. The temperature sign is still going fine. It just grabs the weather data and shows the temperature. You might know this one, that's the binary clock project. And behind the clock, there's actually my Raspberry Pi with the webcam. This is something that's not ready yet. I think there's gonna be some boxes in here as well. I just placed all my tiny little consoles in here. You probably know this one, my Fanboy. So far it's also the most famous project on my YouTube thing, so the name is still fitting. Regular grey brick Game Boy and the purple case one. I still need to find a project that I can put in here. Oh, I mean, it would be nice to have a remote control in here. That's actually the best idea that I came up with so far. Of course, there's my Lameboy in here. I have a pink Pocket, this little thing here. You might have seen the bigger version of this in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I want to put a little OLED behind this. Would be cool to show some actual distance from something, maybe over RSSI. I have this watch thing. It's basically a Game Boy watch. And I think it would be cool to put an OLED in here and make it functional somehow, but there's currently not much ambition about that. It's just nice to have it. I bought it when the price was okay-ish. It was like $15 US, so I was like, okay, that's sensible. This one over here is it the Pew Pew? Oh dear, I forgot. It's a project of Radomir, also called deshipu. I will put a link to his Tindie page. There's probably not one available right now, but pretty cute. And I've put a really small LiPo battery in here. It's really tiny and thin. That's pretty cute. You can program this over Python or MicroPython. This is a BitBoy. I was pretty disappointed by the layout of the buttons. So at one point I just opened it and then switched BA to BA. The display in here is really cool. I can't read that. Let's play Pocket Monster. There we go. There's Pikachu. And I can I do anything here? Okay, now we go. What's going on? What? Okay, never mind. That doesn't make any sense. The Odroid. It's basically everything that I would have wanted for the second version of Lameboy. Yeah, there were plans for adding Game Boy Pocket buttons and make a whole case. After the Fanboy, I was a bit done with everything like that. Almost overlooked the Pocket Sprite. Didn't know that thing was installed. Can you see that? Basically a tiny Game Boy Color. I think it's also possible to play Sega games on there, and Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. So that's the other reason why I won't ever do Lameboy 2, because this is also an ESP32 development board, if you want to say so, like the Odroid, and the Odroid runs something similar. I'm relieved. So the other two consoles here are Arduboys, and I'm currently working on a version with bigger screen. ISO was so kind to offer me free boards, and they usually do some pretty good stencils as well, so I'm happy to see how they turn out. So this is basically the design that I'm planning. So maybe in comparison, what it will look like. Yeah, right now it's shorter, but also wider. What's interesting about the Arduboy is that they just use the battery power for VCC, so they use it on the chip and the OLED as well. But the OLED that I'm using is a bit different, so I don't want to use 4.2 volts, so I'm putting the basic regulator that I have on the Lameboy and the other boards as well. So maybe I can show you some other projects that I'm working on, or thought about working on. This is a leg for a robot. I thought it would be cool to have a little cheetah thing, like the dog robots. But it turns out it's a bit tricky to have the leg movement, and I also have like a dead spot where you don't move the servos, but the leg can move, so it's not the best design. And I'm thinking of putting the servos further apart, let both servos work on the motion of the leg, so that you have two motors working the forces. What I plan to do is building or printing some Lego-like parts, and then I can just plug something together, have a mechanism, and therefore I need little things that I can put together with M3 screws. Already bought like all the metal geared servos that I want to use, but I really like the form factor. I want to build a little dog. Let's talk about the David Watts clock. This little thing here. Have you seen it in pink before? Is it pink? No, that's purple. Got a bit messy in here, and I was a bit annoyed about the resistors that I've put in. So I made this little PCB where I will put on the ULN 2803. I'm only waiting for the resistors. Whenever they come, I will fix this up. Hopefully I can put it somewhere where it's looking good. Maybe in there. Yeah, why not? You might remember this or have seen this on my Hackaday profile. It's one of my first projects that I shared over there. Why don't we turn it on? Power supply is at 5 volt. I totally forgot where I got the robot, the motor. Oh yeah, wham, because I'm holding it close. So what's the idea behind this? This LED matrix was planned to go in here. I need to work on the feedback, so whenever it switches directions, the Arduino will know and change the pattern. So in the end, I want to end up with a 3D display of some kind. There are some parts I have to reprint, mainly because there's too much friction. And here's the basic mechanism. I should be able to show at least a little animation on there. Once this is reprinted, I'll test it out again. There's also this display for those 8x8 matrices. And I thought it would be really cool to show a counter on here. Whenever you show stats of it, it would be cool to have also an RGB LED here that shows you the icon of Instagram or Twitter. I took the design files from Adafruit of their dot star matrix, where there are 2x2 millimeter LEDs on there that behave like neopixels. They're addressable RGB LEDs. Yeah, they have data and clock pins instead of the just data in and data out. There's also one thing I wanted to get into this year a bit more is building synthesizers. I really had fun with this project over here. That's a synthesizer sequencer thing. I've started with a tutorial on Hackaday that Elliot Williams did. The cool thing about this project is I started with the parts that he wanted me to use, basically, or everyone following. My dad actually had a chip that was able to not only count up, but count down and count to 8 or count to 10, which is pretty cool for the synthesizer here. It's a bit quiet. Let me turn it off. It's a bit noisy, but and now it's going backwards. That's a bit fast. Anyway, it's so much fun to play with it. I mean, it gets annoying after like 10 minutes or so, but it has all the basics of a synthesizer, and I have also some chips that are interesting for building synthesizers out of it, like wave generators. And there's also an echo chip that I have, and there's so much stuff that you can just play around with and experiment with. And this is basically a closed model, but there are also synthesizers where you can plug in the cord and go to the next voltage oscillator and stuff like that. If you want to look into synthesizers, there's a cool channel called Look No Computer. You probably know it already. I should put 1 or 2 of my favorite videos in there in the link section. Should really use the time more to clean this place up and organize stuff, so that's what I'm going to do now. But yeah, that's another chop chopper. Let's get to the chopper. Chop update. Man, this gets weirder every time. You will hit the like button.